Hey everyone, we need to talk about something that's been driving me absolutely crazy. There's been this massive wave of Grammy content circulating online, and here's the thing, a lot of it is mixing up two completely different award shows, and honestly, I get why people are confused. Let me break this down, because the angle everyone's missing here is how chaotic the Grammy timeline has actually become, and why that matters for how we consume and remember music history. So first, let's get our facts straight. There were two recent Grammy ceremonies that people keep conflating. The 67th Grammys happened on February 2nd, 2025. That's the one where Beyoncé finally won Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter. It was historic. She became the first Black woman to win Best Country Album, and after being snubbed 4 previous times in the Album of the Year category, she got her moment. At that same ceremony, Kendrick Lamar swept with Not Like Us, winning both Record and Song of the Year. Chappell Roan took home Best New Artist. Trevor Noah hosted for the 5th time. That was 2025. Now fast forward almost exactly 1 year, the 68th Grammys took place on February 1st, 2026. Yes, just 2 weeks ago. This is the ceremony where Justin Bieber made his stripped-down return, performing Yukon in basically just his underwear and socks. This is where Billie Eilish won Song of the Year for Wildflower, which itself caused confusion because people were like, wait, isn't that from her 2024 album? And here's where it gets interesting. Kendrick Lamar won Record of the Year again at the 2026 ceremony, but this time for Luther with SZA, Not Like Us. 2 different songs, 2 different years, but Lamar dominated both ceremonies. Can you see why people are mixing these up? You've got Trevor Noah hosting both, you've got Kendrick winning major awards at both, you've got similar conversations about ICE activism happening at both ceremonies. The ceremonies are almost exactly a year apart, and in our fast-paced content cycle, that year feels like it happened simultaneously. But here's the real story that's being missed in all this confusion. What does it say about how we consume award shows now that 2 major ceremonies are bleeding together in our collective memory? Think about it. People are creating recap videos that jumble together Beyoncé's historic win from 2025 with Justin Bieber's 2026 performance. They're mixing up which ceremony had which drama, who hosted said what, who won what award when. And it's not because people are careless, it's because the way we consume this content has fundamentally changed. We're not sitting down and watching 3.5-hour broadcasts anymore. We're scrolling through clips on TikTok. We're seeing out-of-context moments on Instagram stories. We're reading hot takes on Twitter that don't always specify which year they're discussing. Someone posts, Trevor Noah made a joke about Nicki Minaj not being there, and you assume they mean the most recent Grammys. But which one? The line between events starts to blur. And the Grammys themselves aren't helping. Both ceremonies had the same structure, massive pre-show where 80-plus awards get handed out starting around 12:30 p.m., then the televised show focuses primarily on performances. Both had the exact same complaints. Why are we giving out less than 10 awards in a 3-hour show? Why are most winners announced before the broadcast even starts? Here's what really fascinates me. At the 2026 Grammys, Billie Eilish won for Wildflower, and people were genuinely confused about how a song from her 2024 album, Hit Me Hard and Soft, could win at the 2026 ceremony. The answer? Grammy eligibility rules are complicated. Wildflower wasn't released as a single until February 2025, which put it within the eligibility window for the 2026 awards. Plus, since her album didn't win anything at the 2025 Grammys, the song was eligible to compete separately. But think about what that means. A song can exist in the cultural zeitgeist for nearly 2 years before it wins a Grammy. We're operating on these elongated timelines where music from 2 albums ago is still in the conversation. No wonder everything feels like it's happening at once. Let's talk about Justin Bieber for a second, because his 2026 performance is actually a perfect example of why specificity matters. He performed Yukon in what was genuinely one of the most talked about moments, stripped down to purple satin boxer shorts, building loops with his electric guitar and MPC. It was intimate, vulnerable, and according to the show's executive producer, Bieber only rehearsed for 15 minutes. He did it once, asked if it looked good, and said, "See you Sunday." That performance was promoting his 2025 album Swag and his new fashion brand Skylark. It was also his first Grammy performance in 4 years, following his battle with Ramsay Hunt syndrome. Those details matter. They tell a story about an artist's journey, about resilience, about a comeback. But when that performance gets mixed up with clips from the 2025 ceremony, or when people think he was there when Beyoncé won, or when the timeline gets muddled, we lose that narrative. We lose the context that makes these moments matter. Here's another thing that got lost in the confusion. The ICE activism happened at both ceremonies, but in different ways and intensities. At both shows, multiple artists wore ICE Out pins. At both shows, winners used their speeches to speak out, but the specific moments, the specific speeches, the specific context, they're different. Billie Eilish's 2026 speech, where she said, "No one is illegal on stolen land," happened in a different political moment than the 2025 activism. And maybe that's the bigger issue here. When we flatten these events into one continuous Grammy content stream, we're not just getting dates wrong, we're losing the ability to track how conversations evolve, how activism progresses, how the industry responds to criticism over time. The pre-show complaints are another perfect example. Yes, at both ceremonies, people were frustrated that the vast majority of awards were handed out before the televised broadcast, but the Recording Academy has been getting this feedback for years. The fact that it's still happening, that Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande are still winning awards while they're getting ready for the show and can't even accept them, that's a pattern. That's a structural issue. But when we treat it as one timeless complaint, rather than a recurring problem across multiple years, we lose the thread of accountability. Here's what I think is really happening. We're in this weird era where big cultural events are meant to be consumed as a constant stream rather than discrete moments. The Grammys aren't the 2025 Grammys or the 2026 Grammys, they're just the Grammys, an ongoing content generator. And honestly, sometimes that works. Sometimes the specific year doesn't matter as much as the cultural conversation, but sometimes, like when we're talking about historic wins or comeback performances, or the evolution of industry activism, the specificity really does matter. So here's my challenge for all of us, including myself. When we're creating or sharing content about these events, let's be specific. Not just the Grammys, but the 2026 Grammys. Not just Kendrick won, but Kendrick won Record of the Year for Luther at the 2026 ceremony, after winning both Record and Song of the Year for Not Like Us the previous year. Because here's the thing, both ceremonies were significant. Beyoncé's 2025 win was a historic moment we'd been waiting for. Justin Bieber's 2026 return was genuinely moving. Billie Eilish's winning her third Song of the Year is a huge deal. Kendrick Lamar dominating back-to-back years is remarkable. These moments deserve to be remembered accurately, not as a blurred montage of Grammy moments, but as individual achievements that happened in specific contexts. So the confusion isn't anyone's fault, it's a symptom of how we engage with media now, but that doesn't mean we can't do better. We can honor these artists and their achievements by getting the details right, by maintaining the timeline, by preserving the context that makes these moments matter. So the next time you see Grammy content, ask yourself which ceremony is this actually from, because I promise you it makes a difference. These aren't interchangeable moments in an endless award show loop, they're individual chapters in music history, and they deserve to be treated that way. Let me know what you think about this. Have you noticed this timeline confusion happening with other events too? I'd love to hear your thoughts.